Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to this EO Info Day. And on behalf of the director of the Earth Observation Program, Miss Samantha Kelly, I do welcome for this meeting. I wish we could have organized this meeting in a physical or face-to-face meeting at ESRIN, but like last year, here we are still suffering from COVID, and we decided to have this event online. My name is Maurice Borchot. I'm the head of the department dealing with all the aspects related to science, application, and climate in the ESA Earth Observation Program. I will show, at the beginning a few slides about the objective of this meeting, and also mention or very briefly describe our current plans for the what we call CMIN 22, the Council meeting at ministerial level, where we will propose new programs, particularly in the domain of application of EO data.
Yes, is it for the preller?
I'm sorry, Doris, you are not muted. Okay, I'll carry on now. Introduction of the objective. I was saying this is, about presenting the current activities for three main programs that we have: the Block 4 of the EO Science for Society, the Global Development Assistance, so-called GDA, and the CCI, or Climate Change Initiatives. And during this morning presentation, you will see opportunities of activities for this year, 2022, activities which have been approved in the so-called work plans of activity with our member states. And we do welcome, of course, I think there's a large participation from industry here, research centers. I think there are more than 300 participants today. And it's precisely for you to describe, the potential ways to work together with us on these different activities. As I said, I'll show a few slides about the CMIN 22, this abbreviation CM for the Council meeting at ministerial level next November, where we will present the next steps for Future EO Block 4 and climate space. As I said, the meeting is fully online, and we will organize, bilateral meetings starting this afternoon or mid-afternoon and tomorrow using the BRELA platform here. In terms of participation, it's open to, universities, startups, companies, here value adders, and industry from the ESA member states and cooperating states. And we have, all the information, and I think the presentations will be put or have been put online here, so you can also follow directly from your screen in case there are some issue with internet bandwidth. Just, let me give you a few things about what's coming up in terms of activities here, not for 22, but, beyond 22. This is the current list of programs we are proposing to our member states here for the CMIN 22. A key element here is shown in the center here. This is called Future EO. So where we do in terms of R&D, all the new activities for, might it be preparation of technology, might it be for the development of the Earth Explorer, but might it be also for the management and the exploitation of all the data. And this is, the Block 3 and Block 4. And today, this is about Block 4, about the data exploitation here. We have other activities here linked, basic activities. Some of you might be familiar with this in terms of EarthNet and heritage space here, how we use, the very large collection of data that we have acquired for the last 30 years and how they can still be used in our activities. But looking, on the top of the screen here, we have other programs, from InCube, Truth, and Climate Space. Climate Space is the next step after CCI, and it's why I'm going also to spend some time here today to introduce it together with Block 4 of Future EO. We have also, we are looking at ALUS 2. ALUS is currently flying. It's an Earth Explorer here, extremely successful here. but we are looking at, together with EUMETSAT here, to carry on this activity. And of course, a key element will be the so-called Sentinel Next Generations here, but also the expansion missions, and this will be developed in the so-called Copernicus Space Component number 4. So this is, a global picture of the activities. For you, I think from what I understand, from your interest, which is really on the downstream, on the EO applications here, and it's really on block 4 of the center of Future EO, and also on activities linked to climate space. And I'm going to concentrate on this in the next few slides here. So the block 4 of Future EO, everything is shown, I think, in the picture that you see at the bottom. We have 4 main core elements in terms of, science, addressing the need of the science community, looking at applications, looking at, sectorial policy and European industry. We are looking at, competitiveness, when we talk about European industry here, and key elements here, which is horizontal, which with the digital platforms here, which will be also presented today here, and how this brings a glue between the 3 main elements from science, application, and industrial competitiveness. On top of these 4 core elements, we have cross-cutting elements, or here what I've shown in a horizontal lines here. From the open call, this is, I think, the concept you are quite familiar here. You can propose ideas here. We evaluate them. There is it's not directed here. It's really based on new ideas, and the ideas which fit, mainly towards a criteria of innovations are then selected here. Regional initiative will be described. We are proposing a new activities, which is the Sentinel user preparation. It's to prepare the community to the arrival of the new Copernicus expansion missions here. There were some discussion with some member states if this should be a separate programs. At the end, it was agreed here that this part, something like user preparation, will be part of block 4, and we will do the initial activity of the SUP within block 4. And also an important element linking at foresight, as the name indicates, to look a bit at the future. This is an activities done together with the PhilLab here at ESRIN. Science for society, I have here again try to simplify using this chart here, where science for society is made of 4 main blocks here, from scientific excellence, developing or pioneering new applications here, strengthen industry, European industry, of course, and boosting EO by ITC solutions here. And I think this is, some core elements of this block 4 here, which goes all the way from science toward applications, toward the downstream sector, towards strengthen the industry, and using the latest in terms of ICT, in order to boost this loop here, all the way from science towards application and downstream. In terms of principles here of what is done in Science for Society, or the so-called block 4 here, we are looking for activities driven by major scientific challenges or societal needs, global environmental and agenda here, but really towards the benefit of the citizen here. Hence, the title Science for Society here. The way we decide, or we come up with these new topics, if I may say, this is all based on discussion we have with the user community. We have, even during COVID time, we had many workshops here. We get recommendations here. We're also talking, of course, to the downstream industry, and this is all how our work plan is conceived here. And before we publish ITTs, or invitation to tender. The work plan is every year in November of the year before, approved by our member states. An important point, the third bullet here, in terms of complementarity here, this is also something that we pay a lot of attention, since, there are other activities, especially at the level of, what's done in our member states, but also at the Commission with Horizon Europe here, and of course some other activities like Destiny E and Copernicus here. Last point is, I really would like, to stress in terms of, the latest cutting edge technologies, but also, what can be done using artificial intelligence platform, stressing the open AO approach here, or also open science, data cubes, cloud computing, and citizen science here. In terms of how we respond to the new challenges and opportunities, this is shown in that slide, where we try to be as agile and rapid as possible to respond to some emerging needs here, and some requirements which may come, derived from societal challenges, but also from partner organizations. We are also looking at, new space actors here, how we can foster and further develop these activities. New space is not only about hardware here, but there's a lot also being done in the domain of EO applications here. We would like, of course, to foster the collaboration in Europe here, but also at international level here, looking at partnerships and collaborative initiatives that we have, started and will carry on in the future here. An important point here for Block 4 here, it's also important based on the development or the latest results that are being done in the science, provided by some of the activities of Block 4 here, how we can provide feedback here in the development of future observation systems here. Might it be in the frame of the Earth Explorer? Might it be also in the frame of, what could be done for future Copernicus or Sentinel mission? And, ESA is about R&D here. We are looking at completely radically new activities. I'm sure you have heard of the concept of the accelerators. You have heard of the concept of the, might it be for the Space for Green Future, or the Rapid and Resilient Response Accelerator here, but also some multi-domain activities here linked, for instance, a digital twin Earth and Universe, DT&E on U, which will be also, which is also foreseen to be tabled at the menu of the CIMIN 22. So I think that's, in terms of Block 4 here, of, potential or new activities that are foreseen in the frame of CIMIN 22. Let me also have one slide here about climate space. I'm sure you are quite familiar with the CCI Climate Change Initiative that we started in 2008, how to produce, how we derive the ECVs, essential climate variables here. And once this has been done in an R&D aspect, this has been handed over to the Commission, particularly to C3S, the Copernicus Climate Change Service here. What we are going to present at the CIMIN 22, it's the so-called Climate Space program here. And, some of the key points here, of course, we will continue to do some essential climate variables. Not all of them have been yet tackled, and especially there are still a few that can be monitored using EO data here. but we will also go in the domain on how we can respond at best to the COP 2015 in Paris and the agreement that resulted in terms of greenhouse gas here. There's the global stock take that has to be taken every 5 years here in 23 and 28, and let's see how EO data can contribute to this here. A key element here, the main element of climate space, let me reassure you, it's about R&D. This is where, ESA is at best here, using especially the development done in Block 4, which are handed over to the ESA Climate Office here, and will carry on to do this. What we have started, and I think it's a very interesting development, is together with the WCRP here from WMO, we are hosting, actually it's just started, I think a few days ago on 1st of March, the so-called CMIP International Project Office, IPO. CMIP, I recall, stands for Couple Model Intercomparison Project. It's done at the WCRP, but now it will be hosted at the ESA Climate Office in Harwell here. And it's not that ESA will become, an expert in climate models, but we would like to strengthen the links from the observation, especially from EO data, towards the modeling community here, and with the link of having this international project office from WCRP at ECHO will be, should bring major results in that domain here. Of course, we'll carry on to provide some physical evidence here. I think, we have more and more Earth observation data, and especially using the Copernicus, using the Sentinel data here. And I mentioned earlier the Space for a Green Future Accelerator here, and I think there is much more in the domain of climate that can be contributed for that accelerator. But you will hear a bit more about the short description of this program here, which is stable at the CIMIN 22 here, which of course focus on fostering the European downstream industry, which are interested to work in these domains. At this time, I believe this is the end of my short presentation. I'd like to thank you for your attention. I can only wish you a very interesting and productive day, especially during the business-to-business meetings, which will take place later today and tomorrow. And at this time, I would like to pass the floor to Ivry Desnos, is head of the data application division in my department. So, Ivry, it's yours.
Thank you, Maurice.
I stop sharing.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So I'll cover first what we have in the plans for EO for Society, and in particular the Block 4, as introduced already by Maurice. And I'm going to give this presentation on behalf of the teams, the data application division, and you will hear there will be speakers like Diego, Gordon, Gunther, and Giuseppe, and also colleagues from the PhilLab will also present. So in terms of who we are, this is a bit I think you organized to have some appointment with some of us. So the division is organized around the structure of the program, dealing with science, application, enterprise, and digital platform. And we have also Olivier Rino, which you know as a senior advisor in the team. So in terms of what we do, we have a mission which is to foster the EO data exploitation, to advance Earth system science, pioneer new application, develop the downstream sector, and all of that using latest ICT and collaborative platform in the new era and using latest technologies such as AI. So if we go team by team, the science section role is to maximize the scientific impact of Earth observation mission, covering the whole range of the whole fleet of missions, the Sentinel, the Earth Explorer, meteorology mission, new space mission, and also third-party mission. and they're also in charge to organize all the EO and training and education activity. Regarding the application section, the main role is really to engage the users and pioneer new applications. So this continuous dialogue with the user is key to the program implementation. The enterprise section is objective is to stimulate a competitive downstream industry and foster the use of EO data, and we have partners to do that, such as EARTH, European Association of Remote Sensing Company. The digital platform section role is to develop the platform ecosystem, leverage on ICT innovation. I think you know the activity are coordinated with member states in the so-called data coordination body, and you know some of our success stories like the Euro Data Cube or some of the upcoming currently deployed OpenEO platform. So all the team is also contributing to the regional initiative. This is contributing to international cooperation initiative. We had last week some meetings with our colleagues in NASA in Washington. We are managing what is so-called the open call, where you can propose to ESA your innovative ideas and get funding for it. We are supporting the training activities, and we are supporting all the EO programs based on our relevant expertise in the team, whether it's CCI, GDA, InCube, or Destiny. So how we work, this was also shortly introduced by Maurice. We basically consult, the start of the process is really consultation of our stakeholders. Then we publish more generally, the recommendations are online and available regarding science, but also user or downstream. We prepare a work plan, which we submit on a yearly basis to program board for approval, and then we issue competitive invitation to tender. And this is, of course, the objective of today, to introduce you to some of the opportunities which are being opened this year. So regarding the consultation, we have, of course, a big event this year, which is a Living Planet Symposium in Bonn. And you all know, and we will welcome you, all of you there, and have, of course, a direct interaction will be key to the success of the event. Now, continuing, this was also introduced. We are talking about future EO. So this is what's called trunk of the tree. The motto is Earth Science, Preparation of Earth Observation Future, and Exploitation of World-Class Research Mission. So this is, you know about that. In terms of where we fit in the cycle of development of a mission, we fit in what's so-called phase E. And here we are really under the mission exploitation. So this is in red here, where we can deliver a new and innovative application, and also address a number of scientific and societal challenges with these developments. So in terms of the program objective, as they were established some time ago. So you see we are continuing what was established under EOEP5, which is about scientific excellence, which is about application, which is about industry, and also international response to global challenges. The principles, I think they were established also a long time ago. So to make sure that we respond to user requirements, make sure that the activity we propose are complementing and cross-fertilizing other activity, either from member states or at the European level. And of course, we have also as an objective, which we started some time ago, which is also a kind of revolution, accelerating the exploitation of the data using the latest technology. So with this line of activity, we have been capable to extend, of course, the Earth observation expertise at the world level. We have been capable, and we continue to address a number of societal needs and challenges. We can respond to emerging needs and have a quick turnover, I would say. And then we, of course, leveraging on the AI technology, big data, and also citizen science. So in terms of the component, I think you know them already. Just to say how they were established between EOEP5 and Future EO. Just to stress that under Future EO, we prepared the Grand Science Challenge collaboration with DG RTD. We looked at also a number of response for a more resilient society to global changes. We looked at EO for Africa and prepared a number of security applications. And we have the continuation of some of the cross-cutting activities, such as a regional initiative. And a new activity we started, which was called AI for AO, which is bringing the AI technology in all what we do in science, application, platform, but also industry. We have this open call, which is continuation from EOEP5, and all of this exploiting, of course, this network of collaborative platform. So in terms of just talking about the real numbers, in terms of the dialogue with scientists, with you, user and industry, I think these are all the events we have been organizing in the last years. Just for Olivier told me to mention that he also organized a number of key events regarding coastal erosion and the world cover, attended by typically 500 participants. So very large consultation on very specific topics we addressed. So we had more than 40 events, a total of 17,000 participants. This is a number of talks which are given. The report for those consultations, which is publicly available. And of course, I need to stress that all of this is done also in partnership with major international science groups and organizations. So just to give you in a dashboard fashion some of the results so far, the number of institutions, scientific institutions involved in the program, over 220. The number of experts consulted in workshop, more than 1,500. The number of partnership established, over 40. The number of what we are talking in terms of growth of revenue for commercial application and services is more than 10%. The number of startup and SMEs we have engaged, including via the open call, is more than 180. And then all the training we organize. And then you see on the top bottom right all the big numbers, which is a consequence of using platform technology. You see, of course, the historical snap downloads and visit to the platform, which was one of the first open source, open science development we did under the program. The number of platform processing requests per month, number of active users, and of course the success of the open call at the bottom. We had at the time, or it seems the number has increased, over 150 proposals were received in the first 3 batches of Futurio. So this is just in a nutshell. Means in terms of collaboration, this program, as we stress, is about cooperating and innovation. We are, of course, coordinating very closely with member states. We have had specifically on Block 4 number of bilateral events, and it's continuing. We have the data coordination body, as I already mentioned, to align the long-term perspective between what we do and the activity of member states. We have regular coordination with the Commission. Actually, the latest one was on Monday. Whether it concerns the Earth System Science Initiative, which is jointly developed with RTD. I think Diego will give you more detail on that a bit later. RACE, which I think all of you know, which is really a model which is being looked at from all over the world. And we had also contact with Japanese colleagues on that. Digital Twin Earth Precursor, which is the bottom-up approach. So what can we do with you in terms of the future content of Destiny? EO Africa, we're coordinated with our colleagues in the Commission, but also the African Union Commission. I think Giuseppe will present that, and also the new People series, which is being launched now and which will be presented as well. We have this continuous dialogue with ERSC. It's about also international cooperation. This is a long list of a partner we are supporting. We are working with NASA and JAXA also on some of this technology. And we are also supporting all preparatory activities. In particular, we organize some of the early consultation for the accelerators in January, Space for Green Future, and also R3, and supporting the multi-domain activities. So the program of today, so just we are here between close to 9:30, and then you will have the opportunity to see what is being proposed in the work plan for science, application, enterprise. After the coffee break, we talk about platform, digital platform, AI for AO. Gordon will present also the status of the open call, and we give you a kind of 30-minute slot to capture the question you will have posted on the chat and have start establishing the dialogue with you before even the B2B, which will take place just after those presentations. In the afternoon, we have the presentation of the two programs, which are GDA and CCI, by respectively Christophe, I believe, and Suzanne, and then we close at 3 o'clock. So just I have to remind you that for those who have these B2B meetings after this plenary presentation, is that you have to use the procedure umbrella and to make sure that that the meeting are confirmed. Here today, we have over 330 participants from 34 countries. This is a distribution of the participants. And in terms of topics, we have 10% of the B2B concern climate change, 10% GDA, and 80% concern the activity of Block 4, which is the core of this meeting today. And you see what is the interest of all participants. So this is concludes this quick introduction, and you find here the website where all the information regarding the activity under Block 4 is located, and also our Twitter channel, which is called Open Science. So with this, I'm happy to hand over to the first speaker with Diego Fernandez. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Louis. So good morning, everybody. Let me share my screen. I will try to provide you a panorama of the science program, what we are doing in science. Let me, can someone tell me if it's visible?
Yes, you should please put the presentation mode.
It's in presentation mode now?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay, very well. So, very good. So, very fast, the things that we are trying to do with the scientific program is to maximize the scientific impact of all our missions and somehow to prepare for the establish a solid scientific basis for the future applications. We address several aspects. We have a continuous dialogue with the scientific community, which is mainly the main way we have to consult with you or to collect your ideas, feedback, and this is super helpful for us to identify the priorities to drive the program. And most of the effort is dedicated to two main components, which is to develop new methods, new algorithms, new products, new observations to address the different components of the Earth system, and then to use that new observations in order to learn about how the Earth system and how it works. So a lot of activities are dedicated to Earth system science per se. On top of that, we have dedicated activities supporting campaigns all around the globe. And then we have a number of activities also to engage with the younger generation. We organize a lot of training and education activities. We develop tools for you. We develop a lot of open science tools, what we call the virtual labs, also toolboxes like Snap. We have a number of activities, and you will see more and more in the program that this will be part of the strategy. We are supporting a lot of networking and collaboration across different teams and projects. And some of our activities are also looking at what next, what from what we learn from today, data, could be transferred into future mission concepts. On top of this, we have four main strategic activities right now that complements the program. One is a strong collaboration with the European Commission, and in particular with DG RTD. Try to foster a strong collaboration between our activities and the activities funded under Horizon Europe. The logic is to create a well-coordinated set of clusters at European level addressing a number of priorities, and I will talk to you about this later during my presentation. Supporting that, we are also organizing the program around a number of clusters, and the clusters are large set of projects that address different elements of different aspects of a main scientific problem. And this is, we have a number of them. I will present it immediately after this slide. And it's the way we would like to implement the program in the future. Another interesting thing that we are opening, a new opportunity, is you will see in our calls more and more that we are opening opportunities for undertaking collaborative research activities in a new facility in Esrin, which is called the Air Systems Science Hub. This hub is a new facility to support networking and collaborative research between ESA and between different teams that could work together in order to bring resources and to bring knowledge and data and results from different projects and to try to address larger collaborative activities. And finally, all that is also now more and more contributing to prototype the content of, for instance, digital twins. The logic is to bring together results from different projects, different data, different code, in order to somehow look into the synergies and bring together the best possible replica of the Earth system that we could provide today with Earth observation data. So let's move fast to the clusters. So far, for those that are familiar to the program, they know we are organizing research in the domains of polar science, ocean sciences, carbon science, and atmosphere around a number of clusters. The idea is in 2023 to launch a new set of clusters focusing also on biodiversity, on streams and natural disasters, on land processes and agriculture, on water cycle, and on solid and magnetic Earth. All these clusters have the main goal of develop the new generation of observation systems or observation data, to use this data to have the knowledge of the Earth system and try to transfer that knowledge into solutions for society. The logic of the clusters is to bring together the community, to have several projects working together, promote a more collaborative approach to science, and try to also, through collaborative research, maximize the scientific impact of our activities. So it will be based on top of the traditional calls for projects or specific aspects. We will have also opportunities for different teams to bring together results into more collaborative projects. Okay. An example of that, I would like to give you an example, is what we are doing with the polar science cluster. We are addressing three main large domains. One is looking at the Arctic as a system, the Antarctic and the Southern Ocean, and that, let's say, the third pole or the land cryosphere of the glaciers of the world. All these topics are addressed with different projects. Each of these projects address a specific topic of the problem. But all together, collectively, the thing that we are trying to do is to give an answer to this problem. Try to observe all these different processes, try to explain all these different processes, and actually, with all the different activities that we have, we are trying to observe and to provide observations and a better understanding of all these different. So through the different activities that we have, we are trying to give an answer to this complex problem. The next step, what we are also doing, is trying to bring all that together into a system that can integrate all the knowledge from the different teams, all the data, all the code, and try to have what we call a prototype digital twin, for instance, in this case, of the Antarctic system or Greenland and the Arctic, etc. So this is the logic that we are trying to apply in the clusters for having all the community working together towards this more challenging goal. Now, preparing for 23, we have very recently a co-location meeting with all our projects. We will address as priorities 5 main topics. One is obviously dedicated to better understanding of the ice sheets, in particular Antarctica and Greenland, and the relationship with the Arctic and the Southern Ocean. Then the impacts of the Antarctic Ocean at global level. Somehow the integrated assessment of the Southern Ocean as a full coupled ocean cryosphere system, Arctic permafrost and methane emissions, and then the role of mountain glaciers in the water cycle and the global sea level rise. So that will be some of the main priorities that we are already preparing for 2023. In this last year of the segment 1, we will not have dedicated calls on the polar domain. We have several projects that will be launched very soon. But we are preparing all these activities for 2023. If you want to see other priorities and if you want to have a look to where the recommendations came from, I would like to invite you to have a look to this report. It has been prepared in collaboration with the European Commission. It collects the main inputs from the community that has been collected in 2020 in the first European Polar Science Week. An area where we will certainly have a number of interesting projects this year is the ocean research. The ocean science cluster, we are addressing different topics. Okay, we are looking at ocean streams, ocean health, coastal processes, upper ocean dynamics, the role of the ocean in the Earth and climate systems. And in particular, we will have a look to the recommendations that we have collected during 2 main events that we have organized this year. One was the first collocation of the Ocean Science Cluster projects, and then something that we have organized a few weeks ago on the ocean carbon from space. And in particular, we will have 2 main projects. It would be a single call, but with 2 main topics. One will be dedicated to address this complex problem. In the last few years, we have several activities trying to address some of these elements. And the thing that we are trying to do now is to bring together all that into a single project and try to advance towards the first budget of the ocean carbon cycle from space. So this will be just a first step. This is an activity that we would like to continue also in the timeframe 23-25, and will be also carried out in collaboration with the European Commission. So there is a call right now open that I would like to invite you to have a look in Horizon Europe. These projects will work together in order to try to address this important problem. The other topic that we will address is ocean health. You will see also that in Horizon Europe, there are a number of calls dedicated to ocean health, marine and coastal ecosystems. And we have already, in the last few years, a number of ITTs dedicated to address different aspects of this big problem. We are addressing coastal ecosystems, ocean acidification, and other topics. This year, we will have a call of €1 million, more or less, trying to look at the impacts of cumulative and direct and indirect stressors also on coastal and marine biodiversity. All that set of projects will work together, which means that we will also put in place opportunities for collaborative research across them. Looking more at the land and concerning the science carbon cluster, again here we have several activities already ongoing, but more focus at the terrestrial part. We will have a number of activities mainly preparing for the joint exploitation of the full set of missions that we have and we will have in the next few years that can contribute to provide advanced assessment of the terrestrial carbon cycle. So this not cover only the Sentinel, Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, Sentinel-3, also Sentinel-5P, but also SMOS, and especially in the next few years, Flex and Biomass. So this set of missions offer a unique opportunity, also in collaboration with other missions that can be hyperspectral missions like PRISMA, like MMAP, missions from NASA like NISAR or JEDI to have a new generation of observations that contribute to give the best possible representation of the terrestrial carbon cycle. In this context, we have several activities ongoing. This year, we will have a call of more or less 1.2, 1.5 million euro. Will be ready very soon. The main focus will be in addressing a high-resolution assessment of the impact of land use change, with a special focus on the pulls and fluxes associated to agricultural practices. This complements somehow the set of projects that we have already, and we'll mainly focus on exactly that, try to maximize the synergies that the different missions offer to address this specific problem. On top of this, we will have later in the year another call. We would like to have a community effort, try to bring together the carbon community, the water community, and somehow the people dealing with the agriculture, to look at how a potential digital twin of the land processes connecting these three worlds, the carbon, the water, and the agriculture, how a digital twin of these land processes could look like. This will be a small feasibility, around 400,000 euros to look at this. We would like this, I would like to stress, to be a community effort. So we would like to see the community working together and to preparing a scientific agenda that we could follow in the coming few years. Looking at the water cycle, we would like also to launch a cluster in water research. We have several activities ongoing that can contribute to that, and especially something that we are trying to do now with several projects is to move to what we call hyper-resolution hydrology. So we have in the past a number of activities that are trying to address one problem, which is the fact that decisions in terms of water management and the related applications needs to happen at the vision scale. So to have information at basin scale needs that you have to go below 1 kilometer. So we would like to address this issue, try to make the best possible integration of Earth observation and hydrological models to have data at 1 kilometer hourly. So try to pass from something like that, which is a traditional, let's say, continental scale evapotranspiration product, to something like this. Trying to put together a set of data sets and try to move towards higher resolution applications and higher resolution logical modeling that could serve several applications in the future. So to this end, we are opening a 1 million euro project, will be also out very soon. It has a main purpose is to put together the Earth observation community and the modeling community to perform assessment and benchmarking exercise, trying to bring together the people that has been engaged in the last few years in developing high resolution products, Earth observation products, but not only, with the community that is trying to develop high resolution models. Okay, there is a emerging set of high resolution hydrological models that we would like to somehow assess, especially to see the impact of using Earth observation data in those models. So this is coming also very soon. Another area where we are investing is in the area of streams and natural disasters. This is a project also that is a precursor for future activity. Will be one large project dedicated to multi-hazards. This is an emerging area of research. It's a quite complex problem. Try to look at the connections between different events, so multi-hazards, cascade events, and concurrent events. This project will also be a precursor for future activities that we would launch in collaboration with the European Commission. This will be 1 million euro, and we will focus on better understanding of those events and try to improve, using Earth observation, the ways we have to look at attribution, vulnerability, risk have impact of those compound events. Another important cluster for us is dedicated to solid Earth and magnetic Earth. We have a big initiative called 4D Earth. In this activity, we are trying to do the best reconstruction of our solid Earth and the related applications. And in this case, we will have one project that is trying to move forward the activities that we have started with a number of projects called 3D Earth and 4D Earth. This will be $500,000 dedicated to study the possibility to move from a dynamic representation of the solid Earth to start looking at dynamic processes. So it will try to connect the lithosphere modeling that we have today to the core and mantle interactions, to try to look down, but also to look up to the connections between the lithosphere and the dynamics in the crust. So connecting more to maybe geohazards like earthquakes and volcanoes in the future. This will be a project of $500,000. We plan to have this ITT in Q3 of this year. Now also in agriculture, we will have a call this year, 1.2 million, mainly dedicated to three main topics. Improving the estimation and prediction of crops, nutrient content, the improving geo estimation and the predictions at high resolution at field level, and trying to understand also the impact of crops or the impact of multiple stressors on crops. Okay, so this is also a project. Will be three parallel projects coming out of this single ITT that we hope will be published in the next few weeks. Okay. This also will be a precursor activity for future projects that we would launch after 2023, also in collaboration with Horizon Europe, and try to create a cluster of projects that will focus on science for agriculture in the coming few years. So on the regional initiative, we will have three main projects this year. The main one that, the first one that we will launch will be soon, will be launched very soon. It's called 4D Med. It's dedicated to the Mediterranean Sea. It's a contribution also to the talking of the ocean, and we try to explore the possibility to have a data-driven reconstruction of the Mediterranean Sea dynamics, bringing together the best possible data that we have on the Mediterranean Sea. High resolution data on sea state, high resolution data on the biological processes, and trying to connect that with models and in situ data to provide the best possible reconstruction also in the deep layers of the Mediterranean, bringing together all that data. Other projects will follow in Q3 of this year, focusing on the Baltic and also on the Black Sea and the Danube. In particular, in the Danube, we will try to create this partnership with PANEX, so looking at hydrology and climate impact on the Pannonian Basin, and this is coming also in Q3 2022. Just to recall that we have in atmosphere, we have an ITT out. It's dedicated to Aeolus, is now open, will be closed at the end of this month. Is dedicated to the use of Aeolus to enhance retrievals on aerosols, and also trying to look at how the best, we can use Aeolus to enhance process understanding, especially in atmospheric dynamics, obviously, okay? The project is two projects for an overall budget of 850K. So have a look at that, will be closed at the end of this month. The Living Planet Fellowship, you all know, this is trying to support young scientists to undertake leading-edge research. This includes also several opportunities for visits to ESRIM, for using of cloud computing resources. Even we are opening opportunities now also to support these projects to send in situ data. The next call will be ready very soon. We hope it will be at the end of this month, so very early at the beginning of Q3. Okay. Now, as I said before, a few words on the Earth System Science initiative. We are not doing all that alone. We are doing all this program in collaboration with this European Commission and in particular with the GRTD. We have signed a collaboration agreement in 2020, and we are trying to align our programs and to foster collaboration between our scientific activities and the scientific activities funded by Horizon Europe. The logic is that even if we have the most sophisticated Earth observation system in the world, in order to fully exploit that capacity, we need also in situ data. We need also models and enhanced predictions. We need also interdisciplinary research. We need to maximize the use of cloud computing, of artificial intelligence. So to do that, we need collaboration across big programs. So addressing the big problems that we have requires this European coordination. And this is actually what we are trying to do. The program is now in the pilot phase. You will see more and more in our calls that we are requiring you to coordinate with projects already funded by the European Commission. And in the calls of the Commission, you will see that also they are requiring this collaboration. The plan is that in 23, we will start a number of coordinated calls. With that, collaboration will be even more evident. We have a number of topics already where this is happening, in particular biodiversity, polar regions, ocean health, natural disasters. And from 2023, we are opening to new topics that will be addressed, looking at water resources, food system, carbon, and other domains. If you will see already in the work plan of Horizon Europe 21-22, there is a number of calls linked to these activities. So I would like also to invite you to look at that, because the collaboration with these projects, our projects, will be quite strategic in order to move forward science in the coming few years. Okay? As you could see, they address biodiversity, they address ocean health, they address polar science, but also water research and other topics. And in this context, and I'm just trying to close my talk, we will have a dedicated study to look at what science can do, also in terms of supporting the Green Deal. This will be a study of 500,000 dedicated to address mainly as a community, trying to look at the potential for Earth observation and science, not to look that much at the applications, but to look at how Earth system science and what are the main challenges in Earth science that we need to address to contribute to somehow solve some of the main challenges addressed by the European Green Deal. This is a study that we will launch at the end of the year that is trying to prepare for future activities in the time frame 23-25. So finally, as I told you before, you will see in all our calls that we are opening opportunities on top of the main requirements for research. You will have options for additional work packages for visiting scientists. So you will have the opportunity to come to ESRIM, to work with us, to create collaborative projects with other project partners funded by ESA or funded by national programs, to have collaborative research together in this facility. So will be additional funding for you to work together. We offer this facility as a main center for networking. We would like this to be an additional stimulus to all the program that we are putting together. This is trying to support collaborative research, networking, to be also a think tank to define new activities and shape the future evolution of the program. So we would like also to encourage you to take these options and to work with us in shaping the future of our science activities. And with this, I think I would like to close my talk, and I would like to pass the floor to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diego. Let me share the slides. Can you all hear me? Can somebody confirm that video feed and voice is okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. So indeed, this second block of presentation is with regards to the application sections opportunities for ITTs in 2022. And the key important aspect is that we build on, first of all, synergy with all the various consultative processes that are done on the science and applications. So these are coordinated across the science applications and downstream activities. And we build on the results that are coming from the science activities and work. Thank you. Apparently there was a problem with the sharing. Can you see the slides?
Yes, Giuseppe.
Yes, perfect. So as I was saying, it builds on the results and achievements that are done from the science activities that were just presented. The overall objective of this element is really to pioneer innovative solutions and reliable solutions with strong, rigorous validation processes in support to various international policies and on the environment and sustainable development. Overall, the projects are really characterized by the active involvement of stakeholders and end users. This is done throughout the various phases of the project. So from the very inception of the definition of the perimeter of the activity, the co-design process, the development and the validation phases. And therefore the EO expertise, the teams involved from academia and industry have to strongly interact with the end users and the stakeholders throughout the process. And this is done often also through an agile development processes that we are establishing in the overall framework, and also trying to achieve basically the full integration of the EO-based solutions with the practices that these stakeholders and users have. Therefore, they're not necessarily EO-centered solutions, but we are really pushing forward into an integrated approach, which means that we want to integrate whichever already existing practices and systems our end users have, integrate the infrastructures and respond to the infrastructure that the users have, and therefore we need to adapt to their needs, and we need to also fully integrate the additional data sources that they're using, and bringing also additional data sources that might be available, not necessarily Earth observation based, but from additional data network collection processes. So overall, this is the strong characteristics of the various activities that we implement and deploy. What is the process? The starting point is really the three main drivers coming from multilateral environmental agreements, coming from UN and EU environmental and development drivers, and of course also the relevant objectives of the Agenda 2063 of Africa. So from there, we established a direct engagement of the stakeholders and the users, and we deploy our projects through, of course, the excellence that is brought by the European academia and industry environment. Here, overall, again, the overall approach wants to ensure that the EU applications and services that are developed are really positioned around the user's values and the user's needs in order to facilitate the uptake of these solutions into their operational system and practices. So we close the loop and we make sure that there is a full assessment of the value that the Earth observation-based solutions and technology brings. As I mentioned, we leverage on the ICT solutions in order to avoid duplication of efforts with respect to developing, a new type of development approach or and systems, and we want to make sure that synergies are found with the users with respect to their existing infrastructure. We work on three axes of development, so we have, let's say, three elements that we keep in mind all the time. The domain elements, these are from the terrestrial, marine, atmospheric, and cryosphere perspective. The themes that are the main drivers in our work, and of course the missions that are available for us to deploy these such innovative solutions. We, as you can imagine, the flexible combination of these three elements across these three different axes allow us really to develop tailored projects that are responding to the various needs of the stakeholders. And this is our starting point in the definition of the projects. Another, let's say, from our mixer, when we define the project elements, is also the maturity of the application and methodology. So there is a strong synergy with the science activities in order to build on that and bring forward this into pre-operational solutions. And also the readiness of the stakeholders, different heterogeneous stakeholders group, in order to facilitate the uptake. Therefore, in our mixers, as you can see, things we can deploy, sort of prototype, precursor projects, pathfinders, and preliminary feasibility with early adopters, and move progressively into pre-operational tests, the full upscaling at continental and global scale, and also the demonstrators, into the full operational processes with champion users. And the other element, of course, is that we may try to push and have a community shaping approach with projects that support missing capacities into our stakeholders, to community responsive approach in which we directly respond to the specific community needs thanks to the consultation processes that we implement. Another key characteristics of the projects is that we push for knowledge sharing and, whenever possible, to open source algorithm processor tools and software following the FAIR approach that ESA implements. So this is done through the basically deployment of the achievements and the various solutions into environments that allows the reuse, the accessibility, and of the developed processors and the developed solutions. And we have achieved, thanks to this process, fantastic results in many different domains. Last but not least, all the support to the Common Agriculture policy of the EU, in which we have been able to really engage all the paying agencies through a dedicated capacity development program and knowledge sharing program, really providing a process for such uptake from the initial prototype and precursors towards the operational processes. So we deploy projects on different, let's say, blocks. The first one is the World Series. We have kicked off all of the previously planned World Series projects, and we'll expand on those. We'll have two new ones. The first one will be the World Peatland project. This ITT will be launched in the next month. It's a 2-year ITT with a 500K budget dedicated to that. And this will focus on the improved mapping and monitoring of such peatland ecosystems, from the conservation, the management, and the restoration of these ecosystems in various climatic zones. The objective, indeed, one of the objectives is indeed to derive best practices, guidance, and standardized methods for the assessment of these ecosystems and their changes, with, again, the strong engagement of key user organizations. Here we have, of course, these users have different roles, as they are different type of stakeholders, but therefore we will have stakeholders from a verification perspective, stakeholders from a reporting perspective, stakeholders from a management perspective of the ecosystems. The other World Series element is the blue carbon. At the moment, we will focus primarily on the coastal ecosystem aspect of blue carbon. As Diego has presented, there was recently an ocean carbon workshop, and from there we have extracted this first initial project before expanding to the full open ocean type of assessment. So the blue carbon will look at the look at the highly productive coastal ecosystems in terms of carbon, of course, and these are, for example, mangroves, tidal and salt marshes, and seagrasses. These are have been identified because of the key importance in the capacity, of course, to store carbon, and also given the fact that they provide nature-based solutions to climate change, and the fact that they, at the same time, unfortunately, they are, one of the most threatened ecosystem on Earth, and delicate ecosystem on Earth. Therefore, the key focus, initial focus, will be deployed through an ITT that will be launched towards the end of this year, again with a 500K budget allocated to it. The next element is the SDGs, targets and indicators. So in 2 years ago, there was a theoretical, basically, work of assessment of where Earth observation could could contribute in the response and the definition of the Sustainable Development Goals. We are moving from theory to action. We have launched in 2021 already what we called the Lot 1 of this element, and we will deploy 2 additional ITTs. Overall, this action line has 4 different potential type of activities, from a pathfinder approach, so developing, let's say, new methods for specific targets and indicators. It may have a scaling up approach, so moving from the initial precursor pathfinder activity into the full deployment of best practices across country, and the really scaling up to an addition to a larger geographical dimension, the activity. And then we may have the what we call SDG engines, so the customization of the platforms specifically to support the SDG implementation by countries with specific priority on European infrastructure. And we may have activities on the engagement, therefore the stakeholders engagement in terms of capacity development and in terms of uptake of the developed solutions into operational practices. So the 2 ITTs that will be deployed will be one shortly upcoming in Q2, with 2 projects. The first one will be dedicated to rice monitoring, responding to the specific SDG target 2.4 for sustainable food production systems. And the second one is another upscaling SDG action on the global wetland inventory, and therefore moving to a full deployment at the global scale of such inventory. So these projects are building on previous precursors, Pathfinder activities, and therefore, as I said, we have a continuous improvement and a continuous expansion from the precursors towards full operational solutions that can be uptaken by users. The second ITT that will be deployed will be on 4 different Pathfinders. The first one will be, so all of them in Q4 2022, all of them with 300K allocated to them, with a shorter period of development of 18 months. And they, again here, they look at specific targets and indicators. We have the agri-water productivity indicator, specific methane emission pathfinders, one of coastal eutrophication indicators, and mountain forest and grassland ecosystem indicators. So these are, again, 4 pathfinders that we will introduce in 2022, responding to priority areas identified by the various stakeholders involved. I move to an additional element that we have in the section, which is the EO Africa component. This initiative is let's say, initiative that has been established as a new element in Future EO. It is an initiative that builds an African-European partnership for R&D and capacity building with respect to Earth observation and Earth observation solutions, Earth observation also technology and exploitation capacities. We foster partnerships across in different ways and with different tools. Of course, through specific dedicated goals that we have established last year. Some ITTs are currently ongoing. We have what we call these continental demonstrators. We have specific national incubators, ITTs, and we have explorers, ITTs, for more innovative aspects. Throughout all of these ITTs, we always ask for the strong partnership of European and African stakeholders. And of course, depending on the different flavors of the ITTs, we might want to push for expertise on the Earth observation domain in Africa, but also on the final end users in Africa, which may be national environmental agencies or even the national statistical offices in the various African countries. These specific calls also foresee smaller calls for R&D projects. We have just confirmed and have just had a kickoff of 15 what we call tandem projects, R&D tandem projects that bring together PIs from Africa and from Europe that together submit proposals, and through a selection process, these have been identified and kicked off just at the very beginning of this week. Another call will be in 2022, as I will shortly present. And another element is leveraging on the various, let's say, digital tools, and therefore the infrastructure that is needed for the African community as well to increase the exploitation of Earth observation data. We have launched an innovation lab this year that basically brings together all of these elements of R&D and allows any PI involved from the European entities or African entities to fully and deploy in a much more efficient way the various projects that we have been launched. In parallel to that, we have also launched the various capacity development actions that we have done with MOOCs, with face-to-face projects, with dedicated courses through which dedicated for Africa. And the specific, let's say, fil rouge that is behind all of these activities is the topics that have been defined by the African community. So it's, again, also here, it's a user-driven initiative of ISA. And one of the first actions that we implemented in 2021 was indeed to identify the priority areas. Of course, a key input is Africa 2063 as the high-level agenda priorities for the continent. But we have carried out throughout all our extended network and building on the previous Tiger initiative, dedicated consultation processes with the African communities on which are the key priorities. And therefore, at the moment, the perimeter of these activities are primarily focusing on food security and water management. So let me also, just to confirm, these are the partners and key contributors that are involved and that we interact with through this initiative, EU Africa initiative. The upcoming continental demonstrators, ITTs, are three. The first one is a continental demonstrator that will look at human application of NPP. This indicator basically, or let's say, is really targeting the definition, or the first of all the extent and indeed the definition of the indicators and methodologies to define the human activity influence on the biological productivity of land, which of course may alter the material and energy flows in the biosphere. What is really important is that this type of indicator, and so therefore the proportion of terrestrial NPP consumed directly and indirectly through the human land use, can be, it can be attached to a social ecological indicator that quantify the effects of human-induced changes in productivity. And the key aspect here is really the across-scale dimension of such indicator. So the spatial and temporal variability of the HAN NPP really is can vary at global and regional scales, and this reflects the complex relationship that there is across the socio-economical and ecological determinants of land use and land cover changes. And therefore, it will be the key challenge that we see here is the link between the development of this definition of this indicator and the attribution related to the growth of human population and economic activity. So the attribution step in the different scales from the global dimension to the local dimension will be the key challenge of this activity. It's a demonstrator, so it has all of the key risks of an R&D activity. The budget is 1.2 million, and we target the launch of this ITT in Q4 2022. We will, of course, launch, as I mentioned, the new R&D research tandem projects. The first ones were just kicked off. We will launch a new call in November 2022. There are, if I may say, only 25K per project, so it's a small contribution, but still, it's a very important element, because beyond the contribution, we establish such partnership approaches. We bring all of the researchers closer to the European R&D also activities and community, which means that, for example, for the first group of researchers, we are planning to coordinate to bring them to the Living Planet Symposium, for example, and also provide support with respect to the infrastructure for processing, with also the coordination of the NOR support and all the capacity development support that we have already integrated into EO Africa. So we are bringing together all of the EO Africa elements to make sure that it's not only a simple chip into these activities, but we have a full rounded approach when deploying such projects. An update on an ITT that was also planned for last year, but had to be postponed for a number of reasons. This is the Accessibility and Data Services ITT. This is actually deployed by our ESA colleagues in the ground segment department. It foresees, as was already presented last year, an infrastructure and support to resource provision in order for data access, but also, let's say, services type, value-adding resources and services provision tailored for Africa by the Africans as well. So this is something that will come in Q3 2022, and it had to be indeed postponed as per initial plan. I move to a specific block, and activities that we have linked to RACE. RACE is the Rapid Action on COVID-19 and EO, a great successful deployment done very rapidly to provide indicators and full, let's say, capacities on analysis of through a dashboard, interactive dashboard approach with regards to the impact of COVID. We are moving into a phase of recovery and activities on resilience of the various countries. So we'll have two specific ITTs. One is what we call fast track applications. We want to establish mechanisms to on the know-how and on the experience of RACE. We want to continue building on that, and we want to establish such a rapid mechanism for design, development, and testing and demonstration of novel thematic EO-based applications. So we really also not only have a focus on the content, but also on this such rapid mechanisms that has to be with a strong participation by design, with a strong also validation step, and with the full flexibility in the various selections of technologies, product development approach, and product tailoring, responding to, of course, the theme and subject matters that we have at stake, but also the stakeholders and the community that is being engaged. We are targeting a sort of beta version of such developments, so we are looking at fast prototypings and fast demonstrations. With and also this activity may also include the deployment organizations of round-robin exercises for cross-method comparisons and best practices definition. So again, quite a substantial type of work that we have in this, because we're bringing together, let's say, new innovations in the Earth observation solutions, but also new fast mechanisms in the achievement of such indicator and products. We will plan to launch the ITT very shortly, most probably towards the end of the month, but maybe in the beginning of April, with a budget of 600K for a duration of 24 months. The other project is named IDEAS, stands for Indicator Development for Economy and Society. Again, it's part of the RACE evolutions towards resilience and recovery activities. And we are building, again, also on the experience of the interdisciplinary approach in terms of also data sets integrations that we have seen in RACE. And this activity will provide an opportunity to explore further synergetic use of data sets and indicators, and building, let's say, new discovery perspectives on pressing societal challenges. So there will be identification of 4 new interdisciplinary indicators that will be dedicated to the race dashboard, and that will provide innovative and new perspectives on such societal challenges. There are, of course, a number of new elements. The first one is that we want to really push for on-demand services, on-demand being able to request the production of the indicator on a specific time or geographical area of interest, and also the push towards the incorporation of citizen-contributed data. So we are moving more and more, as I said, into a full EO integrated approach, meaning that EO is one of the elements that we are incorporating in our solutions, and we will be testing the full, let's say, synergy across EO and the crowdsourcing, crowd citizens approaches with this also what we call gamification type of concept in which anybody can contribute. So here, a key aspect will be the validation of the developed project and products, which is certainly brings new challenges when looking at citizens' approaches. The ITT is planned for Q2 2022, and we have a dedicated budget of 400K. So I just want to also highlight, as it was introduced by Louis, a group of a specific R&D element that is looking at the green transition and with a link to the Green Deal. We have the ongoing ITT which is called People, Pioneering Earth Observation Applications for the Environment. We are indeed focusing on the green transition. The first lot is focusing on blue economy, the new CAP with the agri schemes, the ecosystem accounting, and the ecosystem restoration. These are precursors type of projects to be developed still with early adopters, but really exploring new type of indicators that are linked to the green transition and the Green Deal challenges. Certainly one of the topic, so for 2022, we do not foresee specific new ITTs, but indeed keep an eye on this element, because there will be the initial outcomes of these projects that will be presented. We will have specific consultations as well and workshop on these 4 subtopics, and also the new topics that will be deployed in 2023. Certainly, ecosystem accounting from the extent, condition, and services type of, transforming, applying measurements to nature in terms of accounting of the ecosystem values. It's one of the major challenges that we see in this green transition type of work, and we will certainly invest a lot in the upcoming years on this type of evaluation of nature methodologies and parameterization that is needed from the Earth observation perspective. With that, I conclude my slides, and of course, we'll have the opportunity to discuss further at the ad hoc bilateral meetings today, tomorrow. So with that, I thank you, and I pass the floor to the next presenter.
Good morning, everybody. So just let me move screens around. So I'm Gordon Campbell. I'm head of the enterprise section, and I'm going to, if I can share my screen, I'll walk through the tenders that we're planning this year under the enterprise team. Oops, that's the wrong presentation, sorry. So let me get the slides up here. I'll put this here. Right, hopefully can you see my slides?
Yes.
It's perfect now.
Right, just let me put it in presenter mode as well. Okay, so we've got a set of tenders, all of them open competitive. Got quite a hectic schedule to be adhered to this year, and it's addressing a number of sublines. So it's regional initiatives, security, and resilience are the main three items. But to be honest, you don't need to worry about which lines they're under. I think you have to just think about what's the technical content of what we're doing in each of these tenders. So just let me go to the next slide. So the first set of tenders I'd like to walk through with you. So we've got three on regional security cooperation. Each of them are open competitive. Each of them is for a maximum value of 500k each. I need to swap displays. Let's see how let me let me go back to this again. Is that better?
We don't see it, Gordon.
You don't see it at all now.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right, let me try again. Condivi Microsoft. All right, can you see my presentation now?
Now we can see it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
so three activities on regional security cooperation. I've got a perfect, thanks. Okay, so the first one is on for the Atlantic region, and what we're looking at there is how do we go beyond the usual integrated surveillance capabilities, which are basically operational now. So it's like things like satellites, AIS, etc. What we're going to look at is how do we integrate a new generation of extremely interesting data collection capabilities. So whether that's RF signal detection from a satellite, as well as the normal imagery data sets, UAV data. So again, not just the imagery from UAVs, but also signal detection and other data sets. And also, given the advances in automatic surface and subsurface platforms and interesting developments in capabilities such as underwater acoustics, would really like to integrate some of these capabilities in the overall recognized maritime picture as well. I think the Atlantic is the best region for this right now because we've got an area where we can basically free fly UAVs, and so we can really get a lot of interesting data sets for that area. So I would encourage anybody with capabilities in the list of data and analysis domains that I've just listed to think about applying. It's $500,000. It's not a lot of money. The ITT will be out by September this year, and it's get started looking at how we how we integrate these very different data sets in a consistent way. The difficulty will be in the integration, I think, not the actual data collection. And it's a starting point for how we expand that to other areas in a wider range of data sets. The second and third activities are regional security cooperation platforms. So it's how do we, the idea in both of these is how do we get out of the situation where Earth observation is more complicated and more difficult to use than any of the other data sets that people are used to using, and how do we, having simplified the access and integration of Earth observation data, how do we develop okay, thanks for that. How do we integrate things like open source intelligence, IoT sensor network data, etc., to understand the sorts of threats that are emerging in these areas, whether that's organized crime, whether it's other threats as well. I mean, both of these areas, Central Eastern Europe and the Baltic region, have an increasing range of undesirable activity, and we want to be able to characterize these and understand not just situations but also the processes underlying the actors and their the activities they're doing. So these are planned for before the summer, and again, 500,000 each. And it's again, the idea is not to do a completely comprehensive, fully operational analysis capability and investigative capability, but really get started, try stuff out, and see what the problems are, and look for a roadmap for how we migrate to something operational in the coming years. Next set of activities is how do we embed Earth observation into operational structures. So the first one is on civil security and rule of law in undergoverned territories. So that's again a mix of Earth observation, other social media, mobile network data, etc. So how do we do things like strengthening justice and rule of law? So that's for issues such as election planning, transparency, access to natural resources, etc. So it's the sort of the sort of capabilities that can, if they're not there, they start to undermine stability, etc. in these sorts of regions. And again, the main focus is integrating different data sets, the Earth observation, the non-Earth observation, social media, etc., and the customized analysis that is based on these types of different data. So that's an open ITT, and again, that's 500,000, and that's planned for September this year. Probably the largest activity. Originally we were going to do this as one big tender, but now we've split it into 3 separate domains, just to give us a bit more flexibility. The money's the same, so it was going to be one. Originally, it was one big activity of 1.5 million. Now we have one tender starting 3 parallel activities for how do we embed the combination of Earth observation, non-Earth observation within the operational frameworks in investigation of crimes against humanity, organised crime and trafficking. So stakeholders involved there are people like the International Criminal Court, Interpol, etc. And it's how do we enhance the analysis and investigative capabilities they have using conventional approaches such as witness statements, etc. How do we bring high technology capabilities, in particular Earth observation, to support these analyses, and also platform-based methodologies to simplify and augment the sort of data fusion and integration that they can do. The last thing there, which is pretty much ready to go now, this was a bit delayed. We were wanting to do this last year, but it's a bit delayed, is for the number of small satellites that are becoming available now. Often a lot of these guys have problems or limitations accessing interesting customers beyond the ones that are being targeted by their core business plan. So what we're looking at there is going outside of the core business plan, which is already covered by private sector investors, etc. Can we look at additional stakeholders? Can we accelerate the uptake of these new data sets by additional groups of stakeholders? And that would involve basically working with the stakeholders to understand What threshold performance requirements do they see in order to consider these new satellite data as fit for purpose? So that's things like tasking reliability, acquisition reliability, the quality of the data, etc., the latency, the analysis that can be done with the information content, etc., as added value over what these guys have. And then, on the basis of understanding what we have to then achieve, we then want to define a set of verification exercises that can actually demonstrate the fitness for purpose as a concrete step towards the stakeholders agreeing to start using the data from the small satellites on a more routine, systematic and operational basis. So we've got enough money to start. We would do one tender. We've done a Pathfinder already. In fact, we've done 2 Pathfinders already to understand the various issues that are involved in this. We're quite comfortable now. We can do this as an open competitive tender. So this would be open to the small satellite operators and developers to expand the uptake of the data that they have from the systems they have already in space. So we can start 3 activities there, each of $500,000, and the tender will be out pretty soon. We've got 2 tenders on what I would call new methods. Again, I mean, these are delayed from last year. The first is new SAR-based methods. So it's how do we use capabilities such as inverse SAR, integration of SAR and radio frequency signal detection, and bistatic SAR. How do we take these capabilities, extract parameters from these that are complementing what we can already do with conventional SAR approaches, and use that to improve the overall analysis we can do on situations, whether that's maritime surveillance or urban processes or whatever. So we're going to leave it to the bidders to suggest the application or the operational situations where the information, the added value information, can be integrated. We really want to focus on, or the technical specification on our side is going to be the what can be extracted from, like, say, inverse SAR processing or SAR radio frequency integration or whatever that adds value, and we can validate the methodology for generating that information and how it's then integrated with conventional or existing analytics. So that tender is going to be before summer, and we've got, I mean, each of these are initial try it and see type activities. So each is, we're starting at least one in each domain, and each project would be worth a maximum of 250K. The second set of activities is how do we use the combination of deep learning models and physical models of signatures of targets of interest or processes of interest. How do we combine these two to improve pattern recognition or feature detection in combinations of different Earth observation data sets? So whether that's combination of SAR and optical, SAR and hyperspectral, whatever. So using, how are the signatures of the processes of interest going to vary over the different parts of the spectrum that we're looking at, from the different situations that the processes or the patterns of interest are taking place. And how do we combine that knowledge with deep learning networks to improve the performance of the pattern recognition or the target identification? And that's building on our initial Pathfinder we just completed a few months ago. So we're again, this is in a very mature state, and we hope to have this ITT open before the summer. We've got enough money to start 3 parallel activities there, each of 250K. So again, it's, you're not going to get rich on this, but it's initial try it and see, and then all of these things are starting stuff that would then be taken forward under larger scale activities. The next one is not showing. Oh, there we go. So under the next line is resilience and regional competitiveness. Again, this is an activity that's delayed from last year, and EO for resilience. So I want to combine. This is a sort of industrial preparatory action to open up some of the opportunities associated with digital twin Earth and destination Earth. So we want to look at how can we combine EO-derived information and some of the proprietary either data collection or modeling capabilities within some of the industrial sectors of interest. So that there are analytics capabilities for things like building management or whatever. How do we combine these capabilities to characterize the resilience in two domains, public health and urban management, to both fast and slow pressures or perturbations? So fast perturbations might be things like economic shocks or natural disasters. Slow onset pressures would be things like climate change driven pressures. So whether that's increasing air temperature or land degradation or whatever. So how do we characterize the resilience of public health and urban management to these pressures? So it's not do a characterization of the current status, it's think about the perturbation and have a capability or develop a prototype capability that is combining the Earth observation and the models to investigate the resilience and find the sort of the critical potential failure areas where where there's where we should be really concentrating on developing solutions or mitigation measures. How do we do that using this combination? So it's very prototype. It's going to be very, very complicated, and it's taken us quite a bit of time to put the statements of work together because it's been quite complicated. But I think we're ready with that now. So we've got one activity in each domain and 600k for each. On the regional initiatives as well. So we've got this is something we should have done last year. It's delayed. So the idea is to develop for 3 different regions, for the Baltic, the Alps, and the Danube, a portfolio of customized pre-commercial services. Originally, it was just supporting regional priorities, but given the evolution in terms of interest and requirements and the need to do something linked to Green Deal priorities, in particular decarbonisation and zero pollution, we've introduced these as driving requirements for the portfolio of applications in each region. So we've got enough money to spend $500,000 in each region. So one for the Baltic, one for the Alps, one for the Danube. So we'll be looking at what are the decarbonisation and zero pollution priorities in each of these regions in terms of the priority industrial or economic domains or other economic actors. So I mean, it may be industry, it may be agriculture, it may be service sector, whatever. What are the priority issues that need to be addressed, and how can we develop a set of Earth observation, a portfolio of Earth observation based applications and services to support their being addressed by the guys in the domains being impacted. So we've got $500,000 in each of these, and we want that out before the summer as well. Lastly, complementing what Giuseppe was presenting on the race dashboard, we're looking at basically going a bit further in terms of the sort of industrial and commercial oriented indicators. We want to develop basically a portfolio of EO or industrial economic indicators that would be largely based on EO-derived information, but increasingly, again, I mean, this is preparation for some of the longer-term developments we're thinking of. So increasingly integrating non-Earth observation data as well, in particular things like IoT sensor network data, local information that the industrial actors in the domains of interest would be collecting anyway. So we want to develop and also validate these indicators. So it's not just do something technically interesting from the Earth observation point of view. It really has to be an indicator that the methodology is accepted as valid. The nature of the indicator as generating or providing information that is useful, relevant, and actionable. All of that would have to be validated as well with the different stakeholders involved. And we've got enough money there for a set of activities in an overall envelope of €750,000, and that would be tendered after the summer. So that's all the tenders from the enterprise section. Hopefully you'll all find activities of interest there. If you don't, there's always a permanently open call, which we'll come back to later in the presentation set. So I'll stop there, hopefully, and hand over to the next presenter. Thank you, everybody.
Good morning, welcome back. I hope you had a good coffee break. I'm Günther Landgraf, the head of the digital platform section. I introduce you a bit to the programmatic activities that we have this year. The program is a bit at the end of the programmatic line until the ministerial conference. I see Diego is, I think you have to swap this display settings. Diego, is it you that who displays? Okay.
Yes, you can see it. You can see it in full screen.
Now it's fantastic. Yes. Next slide.
Very well. So let me go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, a short introduction. I've given this already last year, but let's say for the newcomers, we are in the middle of a transition phase. This is how we did things in the past. Now you see on the bottom, there were the entities who generated the data, and then the users who did science or applications on the top, what we call here the exploitation layer. They downloaded the data and processed them on their own infrastructure. There are two layers now that are in the middle. You see the second layer from the bottom, which we call the resource tier layer. So this is infrastructure as a service, the clouds. You see here some names of the DSs, but also other players. This is not the topic of the digital platforms program. Of course, it's an essential ingredient. The topic of the digital platforms program is what you see above, what is called the platform services layer. Because on top of the clouds, there is a lot of services that are needed to really help the scientists or the application developers to make best use of the cloud and to be able to focus on their actual work. Click, please. But together, these two layers, we call the network of resources, and this is one essential part of the program to help the European players to use these resources by sponsoring them in their use, because these are all commercial resources, so we are relying really on commercial resources. And the third important part of the program is to link these things together. So in Europe, there is a lot of different resources in the scattered scenarios, so invest on making them interoperable and linking them together with the common architecture. Next, please. So shortly, how do we want to involve you? The 3 lines, the technical capabilities to build up these platforms. Look out for the ITTs. I will present you what is coming this year. We had a feedback from our member states. They would like to see more people integrated into existing platforms rather than creating always new platforms. People say there is enough platforms now. So let's see how this works out this year. In the common architecture, if you have your operational platform and you have a specific use case, how you want to integrate it, let us know. Yeah, we really want to implement this interoperability with practical use cases and not just theoretically. And network of resources will continue. You can onboard your operational offering into the federated resources, and we will continue to sponsor the science or R&D use up to commercial pre-demonstration using these federated resources. Next, please. So common architecture, this year we envisage 3 important activities. One, there is now an OGC best practice on how applications should be developed and how platform environments, what standards platform environments should support to allow deployment of these applications in an interoperable way on all of the available clouds. So this uptake support call wants to help infrastructure or data owners to operate a platform based on the open source code that is available that can host science or value-adding applications on their infrastructure of their choice. So we will support the familiarization, we will support the integration of this hosting service, we will support the integration into existing federated identity management frameworks, and we will support the uptake with the network of resources so that then the science users can use this resource, this new resource in a sponsored way. This should still come out within March. We just have waited for this industry day, and there would be 100 to 150K per operator for the first year. We would, and let's see how good proposals, how much good proposals we get. We envisage four support activities more or less. The other things we would rather like to do in the context of the OGC, and we have here co-investments also from our North American friends. So one is there should be a climate resilience initiative pilot who wants to contribute to the international collaboration on a climate interoperability platform, will be a demonstrator. Look out on the OGC RFQs should come out in Q2 and probably will sponsor this with 100, 200K TBC. Sponsoring meeting is next week. On more focused effort that we want to continue in the next years, also to within the OGC to collaborate on fair science environments. We just had some discussion meeting with NASA in Washington last week on that. So really on these cloud platforms, we would like to have environments there that allow reproducible science with digital object identifiers, and the target would be to have a permanent operational demonstrator that continues over time. And probably there will be a request for quotation OGC in the fourth quarter. We intend to fund this with 300K for the time being. Next, please. Network of resources. So this is what is always available. On the left side, if you have a science project or an application project and want to make use of these cloud-based platform services and where the data sits, you don't need to download the data anymore. You just can right away start your science or your application development. Please apply. You have the link here to the network of resources. You can select the resources there. It's now within a week, we should be able to approve your request. The selection is a bit driven by you. We can also help you with the selection. But on the other side, the network of resources, of course, is made by providers. The call is permanently open. You can see on the ESA procurement portal under there is a non-ESA ITT to onboard you in the contract to provide your offerings for science and application users, and we would sponsor your commercial offering for use for R&D. Next, please. We have a targeted call this year for regional resources integration. As I said before, our member states don't want too much new platforms. So the target is really to integrate regional resources, so analytics, capabilities, data, and algorithms into existing platforms And this is currently open, so you can find this on the ESA tender portal under the non-ESA ITTs. And you see there is 1 to 2 million allocated for this. So this will select, first of all, a regional resource coordinator who coordinates all of these regional offerings. So I think it's also quite an interesting role that is connected to that. For the 2,000 to 2000, the 1 million to 2 million, we intend to have 3 to 4 regional resource coordinators. Next, please. The evolving technical capabilities, that's the only goals for this year, as I said before, rather integrating new partners into existing environments. And the main target environment for this year is the near real-time platform, where there is KSAT together with T-Systems as cloud partners, where you can integrate your capabilities. And there's 3 calls. One is already open and closed, but maybe it will be reopened to integrate new mission operators. So if you have mission data, you can integrate this into this platform, which tries to guarantee that the data are available on the cloud for someone who wants to do applications within minutes. So for Sentinel-1, for example, we achieve 90 seconds from the acquisition of the first line to availability to the application on the cloud. We would like to extend these platforms with new partners also for new capabilities, specifically AI and machine learning capabilities. This call is currently open. You see it here as non-ESA tender. For the integration of your capability, that should be an existing capability, that just needs to transit to operations and to be integrated. So we envisage 100 to 150K for 2 to 3 contracts for these capabilities. And already in preparation, just waiting for this industry day, the regional use cases. So this is really then users of this near real-time capability, regional users, integrate them into the platform and the pre-commercial service development. This will open still this month. And again, we plan to place 2 to 3 contracts for 100 and 150K. And let's say the platform owners will help you with all of the operations, make your application fully operational. The only thing that you need to do is maintain your application, maintain your algorithm. Next, please. Or I think we swap now to AI for AO. Because of course also the AI is an important part of the platforms, and I start with that. Next slide. So this is a shared presentation between myself, Diego, and Pierre-Philippe. So on the platforms we do 2 things. We have a generic call, again in the same logic, existing platforms to extend them with AI capabilities. This is open to all operational platform providers in Europe, and to all people who have AI capabilities and want to onboard their capability as an operational offering to the community. And I think this is really important. The result should be that there is a public offering to the community that can be onboarded to the network of resources. We intend to open this ITT Q2 or Q3. It depends on the start of a new stuff. And we plan to spend 300 to 400K per contract here and have 4 to 5 parallel contracts. So it's quite an important activity. And one activity to enhance a bit our science environment. We want to offer an open library of SAR signatures with a diversity of scenes and temporal and spatial coverage and tools to create new signature as a tool, as a service to the scientific community. So if you are specialized on this, there will be an open ITT in Q2 or Q3, probably Q2, and we have budgeted this with 300K. And this closes my part of the presentation. I hand over to Diego.
Yes, thank you, Gunther. So on my side, for those that are familiar already with the science program, you know that we have started a kind of series of calls dedicated to artificial intelligence for science. These type of calls have two main elements. One element is focused on a particular scientific issue. So we are trying to solve scientific problems, especially in the domains of earth system science, complex issues that we cannot tackle today, maybe using simply data and models or traditional approaches. And the other component is it should try to address some of the main challenges identified by the artificial intelligence community in the context of earth system science. These recommendations normally come also from consultations. For instance, the different sessions that we organize within the FIG week somehow are the main source of recommendations and challenges that we somehow use later on to prepare these calls. Last year, we planned a call that couldn't happen because of change of staff internally, so some internal issues. And we will integrate the calls of last year and this year in a single one. So we will have approximately 2 million euro dedicated to this call. Will be implemented through a parallel set of projects. We target the issue of this ITT probably after summer, because we are also waiting for a new staff to do the team. The type of issues that we will address are mainly a number of problems that we are facing when we are trying to, as I told you before during my first presentation, we are trying to make these reconstructions of the Earth system. So we work a lot with multivariate data sets. We are trying to put together different data, providing information about complex processes. And using these data sets have a lot of issues, have a lot of problems. Problems like the gaps between the data sets, problems like the potential to estimate maybe no observables using the data as a driver, and many other things. So in this call, we have identified a number of problems, challenges that we are facing in many of the different clusters that we have. So on biodiversity and ecosystems, on terrestrial carbon, on streams and disasters, on water cycle and hydrology, on atmospheric research. And in practical terms, we will try to address some of these 6 questions, also how to learn from heterogeneous multivariate data set to reconstruct it again as a gap-free. So if from the data itself, we are able to learn how the different relationships, the different data products, and try to reconstruct a gap-free multivariate consistent data set. So in few words, if, for instance, with artificial intelligence and a lot of different type of data, also in situ data, etc., we could try to do or simulate what reanalysis is doing. Another thing that we are trying to do is to see, for instance, if we have a system that is described by a large multivariate data set, if we can use this data in time and in space, the different type of variables together, to predict the evolution of the system. We know that this is possible. We have done that in the past. But we would like to go a little bit further, and is to look at the special cases of this evolution, especially of string events. So characterizing these events is quite difficult. Models have a lot of difficulties in order to also to characterize these string events. We would like to know if also from the data itself we have enough information, enough elements that may allow us to somehow characterize the onset and also the intensity of those events. Another important problem could be also the estimation of not observables. We have different data collected from different sensors, providing different information about different components of the Earth system. This may allow to try to address also non-observables, try to use the connections between these different data at different space and time resolutions. Another aspect we could like to investigate is poorly known processes, things that so far are not well characterized in, for instance, physical models. How that can be addressed with artificial intelligence. It can be, for instance, issues that so far are not well developed, like the connection between physical and biological processes, or even the connection between the Earth system, let's say, dynamics and the human activity, maybe even including socioeconomic data in the equation, right? So this type of problems will be also addressed by the schools. Another type of things that that we are trying to do is this reconstruction of the full Earth system, also beyond what Earth observation can see. So try to look, for instance, in the case of the ocean, try to look at the deep layers of the ocean, and other try to have, for instance, information of phase variables together with maybe hydrographs and a lot of in situ data to reconstruct also the subsurface processes. We would like to see if the global observation system is, let's say, good enough already to allow us to do that. And also maybe to look at more complex specific processes, like, for instance, ice sheet dynamics and other recommendations that we got from the scientific community in the different clusters that we have. So just to summarize, all that will be organized in a single call. Proposal should address two main components. One is obviously the scientific problem that has to be clearly described, and the other is let's say, the artificial intelligence problem. So calls have to have these two particular axes. And all of them will be connected to the activities of the clusters. So the projects will be part of the different cluster family, and at the same time we will try to create this coordination across the different projects dealing with artificial intelligence. That will help also to learn from all the different projects and try to maybe even help us to prepare a scientific roadmap for the future. Another interesting piece of information here is that we are launching very soon an evolution of the Earth System Data Lab. The Earth System Data Lab incorporates already a lot of these multivariate data sets coming from different projects, coming also from reanalysis. So it already offers a large data cube of data characterizing different components of the Earth system. And we are extending this capability, offering also a number of artificial intelligence tools. In that call, we will also offer the possibility to run some of these activities in this particular virtual lab. Okay, so to facilitate maybe for some of the teams already an environment where the research could happen. And with this, I would like to stop my part. I would like also to stop sharing the slides. And I would like to pass the floor to the next speaker. That, to be frank, I'm not so sure who it is, but probably Pierre-Philippe or Anka.
Yes, thank you very much, Diego. I'm running into some technical issue. Can I ask Doris or Gunther to show the slides, if it's possible?
But we can see it, Pierre-Philippe.
Okay, then the next one, please. Okay, next one. Is it possible to make it bigger? Okay, perfect. So I'm relieved. Good morning, everybody. So I'm trying to give with this schematic a kind of summary of where we try to go with the new value chain that is enabled by this technology called AI, but we mean, in fact, machine learning. And it's a paradigm of learning. So it's learning from the data. And you see here on the left that there are different types of data. Of course, our focus is Earth observation, but we want in the short-term future also to integrate IoT and different type of third-party data, but also synthetic data that are generated by models. I'll come back to that. Then we go into the workflow, and the main step is augmentation of the data to make it, let's say, AI ready for the algorithm to take it. Then we have a variety of architecture to look at to better understand the strengths and weaknesses of each of it and to tailor it to the Earth observation. Then you have the learning and the deployment to do detection and prediction. And finally, the interaction with the end user, where AI also comes back through a technology like a natural language processing to enable very easy interaction like digital assistant. And we want this cycle to be iterative so that what we learn by deploying the AI is actually feeding back into the data, into the augmentation of the data, so the cycle can actually improve the performance. And in the middle of that, you have also the computing, because the software and the hardware are really close to each other with AI. They are optimized for AI, so we're also looking at new type of computing, not only the traditional accelerators, but also edge computing, so deployment on the satellite, neuromorphic computing, and quantum computing. So this is a bit the background to explain where we are with the type of activities we will be running. And I ask to move to the next slide, possible. Okay, so the community is asking in different workshops, including the FEE week, about getting a bit whitening the black box, in a sense, as they call it, which is gaining trust into the AI by better understanding why it does these things, so the explainability. We have a family of activities on this. We have already released a few calls, and we will release more because this is really at the heart of the uptake of the technology. And this one is part of the family. It's looking at how you can do this with radar data, because this is one of the sensors that is really poorly looked at in the deep learning community. So there is a need to have several activities on this. Gunther already mentioned some. So here we will try to really embed the physics of what we know about the radar and the different characteristics from the polarimetry to the backscatter, etc., into a kind of deep learning architecture. And you see the ITT, we plan 2 activities of 250K. Next one. So here, if you remember the schematic on the left side, there was a new type of data which is called synthetic data. This is data generated by models, and they are very useful in the AI community because labeling data is one of the big issues, as you know, in particular for Earth observation, where we are missing labeled quality control data. So we have already some activities on labeling data with new methodology like gaming, but ultimately what is the very powerful is to create data that you know exactly what it is, and we call it synthetic data. So this ITT will try to generate data set using models so that you can then annotate automatically the type of biomes, etc., with high level of confidence. So this is really a new way to do self-supervised learning by creating the ad hoc data set. Next one. So the holy grail of AI is in fact learning without any supervision. Machines basically digesting a lot of data and understanding the patterns. We have already released an activity on this. We want more because the field is evolving fast. In particular, there is a convergence between the community doing languages and the community doing computer vision. Some have invented transformers, so now the transformer becomes vision transformer, and this converged towards the next level of what they call foundation models, where you have these different techniques coming together and becoming more and more generic. So we want to explore this because ultimately, if you remember the schematic, we want a kind of hybrid chain with a variety of architecture, variety of scheme, putting together different strands. Okay, next one. So here it's an activity on building, animating, and managing a collaborative research network with strong interaction with ESA. The idea is that the knowledge is in the head of many researchers that are outside also of the space community. So we want really to reach out, attract talents. This is one of our big issue in the when we recruit AI researcher. It's very, very difficult to find them. They have a lot of opportunities. So this activity aims to create a mechanism by which we can really scale the attraction of these talents and bring them a different level of maturity from a PhD postdoc to visiting professor to the field, and then capture their knowledge through different tools and platforms. Next one. So here it's a follow-up of the first ITT we have released on natural language processing. There has been massive breakthrough in that field, in particular with extremely big model like GPT that can understand languages, etc. Now Europe is also moving on their own version of this, so tailoring to different languages. So we want to capitalize on this to create tools that can understand the field of Earth observation, create knowledge graph, understand the different relationship between different type of knowledge bodies. This is complementing the first ITT, which was more on understanding the image through computer vision and turning it into words, like captioning images. So these two tools would really create interesting interfaces to the data. Next one. So following a variety of, let's say, workshop with an emerging community of quantum computing, and also at the Phi Week, we have understood there is some potential in this technology. I mean, it might be far-fetched, nobody knows, but there is certainly an ability of this computer to do things differently from the traditional one, in particular for the ability to, let's say, do multiple reproduction of reality, so ensemble, where you can disentangle different classes of Earth observation data. So in a workflow on quantum machine learning, they could be an advantage from quantum computing. And we want to quantify this advantage and to measure it against traditional methods. So we will release a small study soon of 150K looking at this, trying to find some use cases so that we can build on this maybe for further activities. Next one. Okay, we also realized that there is a extremely fast advance in digital technologies, but also in the convergence. For example, the web is evolving towards something called Web 3.0, really leveraging the blockchain technology to create value for digital assets that are called NFT, for example. We think there could be application of this first observation data, which is a digital asset, and that it can also transform the way we do, let's say, business with data in the future. So we want this study, a small 150K, to look at these opportunities and position our field of Earth observation within the big evolution of these technologies. And I think I'll stop there and thank you for your attention. I'm going to pass the ball to the next one. But I don't have the share screen, so maybe Sabrina should do that.
I think that's me. Is that on the open call? Is it me now?
Yes, it's you, Gordon.
Yep. Okay, let me try and see if I can. I've been frantically practicing sharing my screen, so hopefully I can do it a lot more smoothly now than before. Can you see that?
Yes.
And it says permanently open call. It doesn't say random things that are nothing to do with this workshop. Okay, so 10 minutes on the permanently open call. What is the permanently open call? It was asked for by member states when we actually at the last but one ministerial and then on up to that. So it was basically, this is a framework for everybody to propose quick and dirty, try it and see activities rather than wait to have things, new developments incorporated into our standard work program. So industry, research community, whoever, propose new activities outside of the standard work plan. We've prioritized innovative ideas and you know, it's the assumption is people are going to be proposing rapid initial responses to some sort of issue. I mean, there'll be maybe some time limitation associated with the issue as well, but it doesn't have to be like that. But you know, there should be a good reason for doing the activity quickly, and it really is a rapid initial response. Okay, so it's try it and see. If you like. So that means it's not a big budget and it's not a long duration. Okay, so it's €150,000 the maximum spend for any individual contract, and it's a maximum 12-month duration. If you want to do something bigger for a longer time period, then it's probably not inside the scope of the open call. Really focus on what do you want to try out, verify that it works, and then we can think about how whatever it is you're looking at, how that can then be taken into a sort of a larger scale activity. It's continuously available funding. Okay, so it's, well, I mean, it's called permanently open, but it's permanently open during for the duration of the program. So for UAP5, it was open from 2017 to 2020, and for Future EO, it's 2021-22. We have regular submission deadlines. In theory, you can submit proposals at any time, but everybody submits them more or less at the different submission deadlines, which is fine. But that means we get a big wave of proposals every submission deadline, which is if people want to work like that, that's fine. Originally, we had the submission deadline every 3 months, but just for management purposes, it was just too much. So we increased that to 4 months now, and that's a lot more manageable. There's just some statistics on the right-hand side. We said we're focusing on innovation. So out of we've had something like since we started more than 550 proposals. I mean, it's a big machine that we're running, and out of that, we're getting a lot of a large percentage of bidders or proposals that are led by bidders as well that are new to ESA. We've never seen them before, and a large percentage that are new ideas as well. Really are innovative ideas rather than expansion of existing activities. Although expansion of existing activities, if you're very clear what the innovative content of that is, then that's fine. That's in scope as well. In terms of participation, we're getting a lot of interest from SMEs. I've got something dinging. Hopefully everything's working. We've got a lot of participation from SMEs. Probably, and of the SMEs, probably about 1/3, if you look at the statistics, are new to ESA, and probably 50% of the new ideas, or 50% of the ideas from SMEs are new innovative ideas. So we're pretty happy with statistics. It's useful. We're getting a lot of interest. We get a lot of proposals. So hopefully things are going all right. We realise things aren't absolutely fine, but we're progressively sorting out all of the issues. In particular, okay, I mean, the 2 points to note here. We've got 2 more deadlines before the next ministerial. One is in July and one is in November. So if you've still got things you want to propose, get them in for the July or the November deadline. After that, we'll be starting a new call in 2023 under the next segment of Future EO. And hot off the press, I think the biggest frustration from bidders and also for us was the time it was taking to notify unsuccessful bidders. The rules of ESA tenders are we're not allowed to let unsuccessful bidders know that they've been unsuccessful until we've signed all of the contracts with the successful bidders, which for the open call doesn't really make sense. And we've been having a lot of internal activity. So now you'll be happy to know they've changed the ESA rules on this. So now, from now on, we can actually notify unsuccessful bidders at the same time as we notify successful bidders. So hopefully that will be a lot faster. I mean, that will be the target is within maximum 2 months of the submission deadline, and yeah, that means you can get debriefs and things in time for the next submission deadline if it makes sense, if we decide it makes sense, or you decide it makes sense to put in a new submission. I'd like to spend a couple of minutes just walking through how we assess your offer, because some things we see a lot of sort of systematic issues in proposals, and we just like, when there's basically, good ideas or interesting ideas, but they're not written in a way that we can give you the marks. It's not really ideal. So just some points that I think please take these into consideration when you're writing the proposal. Firstly, the proposal is structured as a template. That's meant to help. That's meant to make things as easy as possible for you to.
Gordon, can you make the slide because you are kind of sharing the screen? So can you make it bigger? Because people are asking about that. Yeah, good. Yeah, excellent.
Okay. Sorry, because if there's messages, I can't see the messages while I'm speaking for some reason. Apologies for that. Anyway, so this is a sort of screenshot of the proposal template. So the template is there to make things as easy as possible for you to submit a proposal, and also it means it makes it a bit more straightforward for us to assess. So firstly, I would suggest be very clear about what you want to develop. We get some proposals along the lines of climate change is happening and global population is increasing and really bad things are going to happen, and can we have 150,000 euros, please? I mean, please, be very clear. What do you actually want to develop? Okay. What issues are you addressing? Okay. This is competitive, okay? So the more clear and the more convincing you are about all of these things, the more marks you get and the more likely we are to be able to give you a contract. It's not like compliance with just fill the stuff in and it's okay. It's be the best in this so that we can award a contract. Okay, so are you clear what you want to address? And given what you want to address in terms of what are users looking for or what's the problem you're trying to solve, are you very clear about what's the target technical performance that you're going to have to achieve? Okay, because your proposal is being assessed by technical people. Okay, so they're looking for the technical issues in the proposal. Is it innovative? Is it clear what the target performance level is? Is that a credible target performance level that can be achieved today? Is it clear? Let me click. To what extent to what extent is your proposed development? Is it innovative? Is it an advance over the current state of the art? Is it making a significant impact? Why is it worth doing? Okay. And are you, in terms of the problem areas, given that you're proposing something innovative, okay, there will be problem areas associated with the innovation. If there's not problem areas associated with the innovation you want to do, you don't need to do a contract with ESA. Just do it. Okay, so the reason for doing something with ESA is there's technical problems, there's technical risks, and we need to do something together with you as ESA to address these technical risks. So we should be able to see this is the innovation. These are the technical issues associated with the innovation, but I've got clever ideas as to how to address them. And this is the method I'm thinking of for addressing these technical problems. And these are the technical steps I will execute that both guarantee I can meet the intended levels of performance and also address the technical problems that have up until now stopped anybody else from doing my innovative idea. And if you can get all of that clear, then you have a very good proposal. Okay. So, just complementing that, stuff to remember. Firstly, your proposal is reviewed by technical people in ESA. Okay, it's not reviewed by technology journalists. It's not reviewed by venture capitalists. It's reviewed by technical people. We need technical content to assess in your proposal. So if you give us a proposal, which is, I've got an innovative idea with some users. So work package 1 is agree user requirements. Work package 2 is elaborate a solution, and work package 3 is implement it. You don't have sufficient technical content in your proposal for us to evaluate it in that case. So, we don't want you to do the work first, but you should have a sufficient dialogue with whoever your stakeholders are to be able to specify target technical performance levels and the technical steps to be executed. And we can assess that. So we're not looking for buzzwords. We're not looking for market projections or anything like that. We're looking for a solid technical proposal that is addressing something innovative with a clear impact. Right. Secondly, your proposal is reviewed in competition against other proposals. So it's not compliance. We're not looking for compliance like, yes, that's innovative, or yes, there are technical steps. Okay, it is, are these things clear? Is this, can we, why, does this make sense? Have they covered all of the issues to the extent that us technical people are comfortable with? In terms of co-funding, we're not looking for co-funding. We're looking for things that that are scoped and matched to the available funding. We don't have a way of saying, oh, the co-funding, we should add additional marks there. We don't evaluate that. It's not an evaluation criteria. So the fact that you're co-funding, we don't have a mechanism to award higher marks. It's not the scope of the call. The scope is exploitation of EO data in the activity. So things like theoretical studies of future systems, etc., are normally considered out of scope. Make sure you explain the innovation and the associated technical risk. If there's no risks, then if you're looking at something that's, for example, very close to market, then maybe you should be looking at Incubed as the funding line, not the open call. Okay, the open call is where there's a technical problem that needs to be solved, that you can't solve that by yourself. When you're explaining technical methodologies and things, don't just list things. Give us enough information that we can say, yes, that makes sense, and that will be sufficient to achieve the target performance levels that you've identified as that's the sort of that's what we're shooting for. If you're doing AI-based, like you sort of deep learning, or you've got some deep learning, it doesn't mean magic will happen. Okay, so you're not going to be able to extract information magically. So give us we need to look at the information on the in the proposal for what you're going to do, whether it's AI or not AI. We get a lot of proposals where there's a deep learning model and that solves everything. Don't worry. We need to see the technical content there to be allowed or to be able to assign marks and for you to get sufficient marks for the proposal to be accepted. And then we get into the admin. Okay, so please make sure you sign the cover letter, you sign all the, or not you, but the responsible person in your company or organization. The cover letter is signed, PSS forms are signed, etc. Because if things like that are not signed, then formally we don't have a proposal. And you can then, if we were to select that proposal with nothing signed, you could start negotiating from a point like, I know it said 150k, but I want €1 million. You have to have signed these things for them to be formally a proposal. Make sure your cover letter also has things like the firm fixed price, the duration, the validity, etc., all the stuff we're looking for. And it is clear if you've got multiple partners who's getting how much resources, etc. And the last thing I would suggest is get somebody who's not been involved in drafting the proposal to read it before you submit it and tell you what you're going to do, why is it innovative, what are the associated technical difficulties, how are you going to solve them, and why is it interesting? And if that person can convince you that it's worth funding based on what they're saying, then you've got a good proposal. If they're not sure, then you might want to have a look at what some of the things you're writing again and make these things more clear. And lastly, I messed up on the slide. So make sure you explain clearly all of these things. Okay, what's being developed, target performance, what's the innovation, what's the impact, technical difficulties, and your execution approach. Letters from users for a lot of the domains, they're usually necessary. A letter from a user that says, my name's Bob, I work for this organization and I support this proposal is better than nothing. But if it's my name's Bob, or my organization does X, I've got this data or these data sets that are important for this. I'm going to give them to the guys doing this proposal and I'm going to use the results in the following way. Clearly, that's a much stronger level of user or stakeholder engagement than my name's Bob and I support this proposal. Okay, so think about what you want to get, and 20 identical letters saying my name's Bob and I support this proposal don't really add a lot compared to lots of different guys saying different things that match the mandate of their organization. Lastly, letters from your national delegation are not required for this. You don't need support for your national delegation. Your national delegations have already supported this by agreeing to this being in our work plan and this being, and also under the ESA industrial policy, this way of working. So it's already supported by your national delegation. So anybody in any of the member states in Future, which is any of the member states, anybody can submit proposals to the open call. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Gordon. I think it's time for the Q&A. We are really sharp on time. Perfect. Thanks a lot to all the presenters. So I would suggest, just as a natural transition, that we start with the questions. I don't know if you see them, Gordon, on the open call, which are in the chat. First, so it's not in order, but we will come back to the others. The first question is about the Philip Harwood. Can you see it, Gordon?
Oh, sorry, I didn't have the chat open. Philip Harwood, will the new rules around notifying new rules, I presume?
Yes.
Philip Harwood's rubbish at spelling. Will the new rules around notifying apply to all contracts or just the open call? Right. To start with, it's the open call, but it will apply to all contracts. I understand. It's at least all calls. I'm not sure if it's all tenders, but it's definitely all calls. We can check with our contracts colleagues and clarify that over the next few weeks. But it's definitely all tenders that are structured as calls, and we're the first one.
The second question is, if you can see it at 11:55, could you give some examples of what kind of projects are eligible for the open call?
So I mean, it's basically anything that is using Earth observation data in some way. So you can use it in science, in application, in whatever. I mean, as long as you're actually using data at some point in the activity. So we don't, it's complementing the line of activities we've got on Block 4. So it's science, applications, industrial competitiveness, platforms, etc. In any of these domains. So whether it's EO for security, whether it's regional initiatives, whether it's whatever. I mean, as long as you're using Earth observation data in some way during the project, you're pretty much in scope.
Okay. So thank you. I think we take the question as they come. There is the last one. Will the ESA tender? Can you take this one? From Quentin. Gordon. Will the
ESA tenders platform issues be solved in the real-time problem with status updates? Hopefully, I'm not sure what the what the issues are. Now, there's been issues recently that we've been getting a lot of emails. I don't know. We need to check with the guys responsible for ESA Star and get back to you on that.
Yeah, we have Another one, how many contracts are expected to be funded through the open call, I believe? Huh?
I mean, it's between about 6 and 12 every batch, depending on the quality of the proposals. One point I see, Johnny, the open calls are highly welcome. Could the implementation plan be somewhat simplified? We're not building a satellite. Yep. Yes. I mean, the idea is we're not generating paper. We want to do interesting developments. And the other activity, I don't know if it was said at the start. The intention is, I mean, this is speaking under Yves Louis' control here, but the intention is for the next open call, so in 2023 onwards, so not this year, but post-ministerial, we want to increase the budget slightly as well per contract and make it, be able to award slightly more projects per batch if we've got the sufficient quality proposals.
Yes,
but right now it's 150k and it's between about 6 and 12 per batch.
Okay, so we move up on the question list. There was a question from Mitchell. I hear different terms used for projects. Was at 1150 accelerator, precursor, demonstrator project. Is this a set distinction, and if relevant, where can I find the definition of each type? It's for what we presented this morning. Even if you have the notion of accelerator, it's in the sense of accelerating the cycle of the development. We will talk about accelerator with a big A, which is the vision coming from the Mazzocchino's manifesto. But this I'll give the floor in a minute to Giuseppe to speak about that. We have a notion of precursor, which is a precursor of a bigger thing. We use it for the digital twin Earth, where in response to member states' requests, we did via a bottom-up approach some demonstration of what could be a DTE, and it's still ongoing. And the demonstrator is self-speaking. It's trying to demonstrate a new concept, but all of this should be perceived in the context of innovation and R&D. Now, I leave the floor to Giuseppe to complement on the accelerator with the big A. Please go ahead, Giuseppe.
Indeed, yes, thank you, Yves. To complement indeed what this nomenclature reflects, indeed our process in developing whether science applications or industry type of projects. So starting from prototypes, precursors, pathfinders in interchangeable way to full upscaling into pre-operational setups. With regards to the accelerators with the capital A, not to be confused, just like what Yves was saying, to the fact that in certain circumstances we want to accelerate certain dynamics of deployments and R&D actions. The accelerator with the capital A, it's more a programmatic vision coming from the DG on indeed accelerating the use of certain space technologies in different contexts. Joseph, the DG, has developed this vision back in November, starting over the last summer, and that ultimately brought to the Mazzocchino's manifesto, in which through the strong advisory, high-level advisory board was confirmed that this approach of creating synergy across existing and upcoming European and international initiatives, bringing this capacity all together, we shall be able to accelerate the use of space in certain certain specific objectives. So at the moment there are 3 accelerators. This was also mentioned at the very beginning by Maurice, which Earth observation certainly can strongly contribute. So there are 2 different aspects. I can paste here in the chat as well the link to this vision by the DG, the link on the website. I don't know if anything else is further needed to be explained.
Please provide the link. So going a bit upwards, I see some highly technical question from Maxime. So I don't think we want to enter about data resolution and things like this. I would really push this kind of question to the B2B about the. I think you can maybe take contact with the either Olivier Arino or the team or Zoltan with via Giuseppe to discuss this kind of things about resolution, productivity, type of vegetation. So we can put you in contact with a specialist rather than cover this now. If you agree, if you can survive with that, Maxims. It's okay for you. So no, if you have any further questions, just post them in the chat and we will cover them as they come. Please go ahead. So just to recall as well as we wait some additional questions that we, unless somebody wants to cover the story of data resolution in between, if we can just mention a few things. First, the slide set you've been given the ESA box links, so where you can get access to the slide already. They will be also posted on the EO for Society website. And we made also an announcement regarding the opportunity for the exhibition at the Living Planet Symposium. So there is still room available for you to exhibit your capabilities there. This will be the largest Earth observation event of the year, and it's every 3 years. So, and we look forward to talk to each other in a physical sense at the event, post-COVID, of course. Okay, so any additional question you would like to pose to us right now? Because we have also all the B2B, and I have also to make a last announcement, which I made already, but to repeat, just confirm your appointment via the BRELA system. And you should know about the procedure to register and book the slots. Actually, I've accepted myself all the appointments posed to me for this afternoon and tomorrow. So just go use the system, and we're happy to spend some time in B2B with you. Receiving regarding the bit, yes, there are some slots available on the BRELA platform. Actually, within the official slots which were allocated, but I realized that some people managed to propose appointment outside that, and we have accepted them. So I have accepted them at least. So that's it. The next one is, could the slide link be reposted, please? I think it has. We can do that. Can ask Doris to do that. Can you do that, please? Or it's done already. The BRELA platform access is provided. Max Zoltan, yes. Zoltan has taken the question from Maxims. So I suggest you talk to each other on this particular aspect of the resolution for application. Okay. So I still leave you a bit of time if you have additional question. Otherwise, we will close the event in a few minutes. Any additional question to all the speakers, please feel free. Okay, I see no further questions. So just can we just post again the link to the ESA box? Yes. Yes. Okay, it's just appearing as I speak. So please take it and someone else in the bilateral meetings. Yes, you have to go to, maybe Doris, can you take that one? Please for me. Yeah, we are going to. Okay, so you have the links and the access at 12:17 for Brella. So the answer is yes, it's possible.
No, unfortunately not if Luis on one-to-one meeting.
Okay.
Sabrina,
Yes.
for those ones, if there is maybe a specific case where maybe different members of a team that are in different locations could connect, maybe the meeting could be organized with a specific person they want to talk with outside the Brella system.
Exactly. Yes.
So organize a normal meeting outside the Brella system if a time slot is available.
Okay.
Exactly.
But
Thank
you
you,
could
Diego.
have two persons in front of the computer as well. I've seen that in the past.
Yes,
Just
indeed.
to reply to Roger. So this has been done in the past. So not it's possible. The event recording, I think Sabrina, you can reply on that one. Yes.
It will be posted this afternoon. It's ongoing, and the technicians are putting the available recording, let's say after lunch time, more or less, on the website, Your Science for Society.
Okay. Now, before we close, I see that Maurice has joined back. So, any question you would like to pose to Maurice, please feel free and just wait us a few minutes. Okay. So if not, I would like to thank you all. Maybe we could give the can if you could unmute Maurice. I think I don't know who can do that. Leanne, maybe. So he can close the meeting. I can hand it over to him for this morning session. So there is a question from Sami. Maurice, can you put can somebody put Maurice in the panel? Because he cannot speak yet. Yes, he's. So
I'm back.
Maurice.
So, sorry.
Welcome, Maurice. So no, we were working on it. So there is a question directly for you. I don't know if you see it in the chat.
No, I don't see, and I do apologize, but I was taken in other meeting up to now. It was longer than foreseen. No, I don't see the chat, so I'm not sure what the question is.
I can tell you the question is about any other opportunity to discuss the semin preparation from Sami.
Yes, by all means. I think this was mentioned, at least for the part I saw this morning. We'd like to be as inclusive as possible. It includes, of course, the science community here, but also industry. We are in discussion with ERSC here, on the way forward, on the different content of the different elements of the CIMIN program proposal, including Futrio, including climate space. But you will have another opportunity here. I think there is a meeting foreseen with Eurospace, but we can put this in the chat. I think on the 12th or the 13th of April here, where there will be, it will be a bit more at higher level with all the different program proposals that will be presented here. And I think there will be also an opportunity for you to make your point about, you know, things that you would like to see, or some opportunities that you would like to raise for the CIMIN 22. So indeed, this is not yet frozen here. We are in discussion with our member states here, but there's still some opportunity for you. Might it be at the science level, might it be at the user level, but might it be also at the level of industry to have impact on the CIMIN. Thank you.